I'd rather, in this instance, have an over-engineered house. So we just specced up steel, and spoke to the owner and just said, "Look, we put it in now. It's going to give you a better bracing capacity because it's all windows across the front. You should be able to get this and that." And I just went, "No, I'd rather just go overboard with it. Like you're not the one that's guaranteeing this. I am.
Yeah,
So I'm
exactly.
going to override it, and you know." It allowed me to sleep a little bit better.
Thinking about building or renovating? Or maybe you are already knee-deep in a project now. Are you feeling unsure of which steps to take and if you are making the right calls? You're not alone. Welcome to Builders Beyond Borders, the podcast where experienced Aussie builders share real stories, insider tips, and practical advice so you can build with confidence, avoid costly mistakes, and actually enjoy the journey. Let's dive in.
Hi guys, it's Dean from DJ Builders. Welcome to another Builders Beyond Borders podcast. Today it's just Matt and myself. Matt from Matt Auld Builder down in sunny or very windy Warrnambool today. How we going, Matt?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, good. You've ducked into the car out of the weather because
Yeah. We're pretty close to a handover here with one of our jobs. We're about a week away. So, unfortunately, and we're out of town by a bit. So, yeah, getting back to the office today just wasn't going to happen. So, we'll do it from the
yeah,
car.
and you're wearing the brunt of the weather as well today. So
Yeah, so this is the back end of the it started yesterday. It started getting pretty savage, but I think it's the storm that Perth copped on the weekend. So they
yep,
got a pretty savage storm, and ripped roofs off and all that sort of stuff. And we're getting that today. We're about 80 meters off the cliff face here in Warrnambool, and like it's windy at the best of times, but we've got
yeah,
we've got 100. I think the wind gust we had before was 140 k an hour, or 130 it was. So that was the one we had, and yeah, it was nice and brisk. That one was sort of watching all the windows flex and all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't very nice at all. I think
no,
it's
don't.
it's it's just been downgraded now a little bit now, so we're not too bad.
Uh, Very fun times.
It is.
Testing out the N ratings on that building today.
Yeah, well, it's an N3, but I tell you what, today feels like an N4. So yeah, it's a pretty ordinary level, but it gets your heart racing. Like I've been sitting here all day. You're just in constant panic mode, thinking, have I done this? Have I done that? Are the windows specced up to the rating that they need to be? It makes you question a lot of your processes and your systems through your framing stage, especially. So we got some pretty big eaves on this joint, up around 600 to 900 eaves, and I just remember the tie downs that we had, cyclone straps and the 150 mil batten screws that we were driving back up through the ribbon plate and the top plate into the bottom of the truss, just to give it a bit of surety as well on every single one.
Yeah,
It makes you shore things up, that's for sure. So
it's
helps with
it's interesting because you built your own house as well
yeah.
as a buy, and I when Shannon and I bought our first property, it was an old return serviceman home from the late 50s, and it was like a council home, housing commission home sort of thing. And we lived in that place for 15 years. It was a prefab thing. It never concerned me at all. But then I built my own house. And as soon as we have some pretty adverse weather, I go through those exact same things. And I
Mm.
think, oh my God, did I do that bracing right? Is this right? And like, of course it is. It's all the standards. And second to none, the quality of the build. But I never experienced it until I started living under my own roof, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, did I do that right? And do you have that at home too, or?
Oh, I do. Especially when things start rattling and moving in these winds that we've had, because so this house that we're doing here now is 80 metres off a 30-metre drop into the Southern Ocean, and then our house about 8 or 10K back into town is about 400 metres from the ocean. But and we were only an N2 wind classification, but there was some times where I just looked at the framing and just went, "Oh, nah, go overboard on it, do this, do that," even if it didn't spec it up. I think it's a really good common practice to, like, what's a roll of hoop on worth?
Exactly.
$80 for a 2.8. Like, you
Mm.
get that and put it on. It's easier to do it then than what it is, to do it once stuff
Retrospectively,
starts.
yeah, for
But you
sure.
do, there's some nights where I've been laying in bed and you hear we got some pretty big Velux flashings, like the tray flashings going back up from a
Yeah,
Velux up to the ridge.
yeah,
And you do hear them rattling and you're thinking, oh, what is that noise? And,
yeah,
all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think that's just because we care so much that, we just want to make sure that we've done the right thing.
yep,
So
and
I would hate to be the guy warranting some of these volume builds that have been
oh,
planted, in those higher wind areas.
yes,
So
for sure. It's interesting because, like, I had an experience. We've been in here for over 4 years now, and I was talking to Dad about it. Dad was a builder for over 40 years, worked in mainly commercial construction, but he built his own house, the house I grew up in. And I was talking to him about it one day, and I was like, "Oh, you get these, big downpours or really windy rains, and I can just lay in bed at times and just worry." He goes, "I went through exactly the same thing." And, probably over 40 years ago when he built our house, and it was like to hear that come from him too, to go that you still have those concerns about living in your own house that you've built. It's, it's done right, but you still have those concerns. And it's the same for any other customer's home too. Like, we always have those concerns about the liability that we hold for those properties too. So
yeah,
I think
exactly.
we are no different in that sense to our clientele.
Yeah.
So, hmm,
Oh, if we the one here that we're doing now, if it can withstand what we've gone through today and yesterday, I will be able to sleep a lot better, in the next, you know, 10 years while we're warranting this joint.
yeah,
I'm I'm quietly confident that there's not gonna be any issues. Yes, you do have wear and tear because you're so
ah,
close to the ocean. Like, we've had days where you can hear and see the waves crashing into the cliff,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden you'll hear the wind push the spray up over the cliff, and it lands on the house, and
yeah,
it's unbelievable. So there is going to be certain elements of wear and tear, like where, the outside door handles they're going to probably have to replace every 12 to 18 months. Hinges, there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts out here that they're just not going to withstand the time. So maintenance is going to be a big one. And I have had plenty of discussions with the owner about overbuilding the property. So sort of going to more extremes than what you would on a standard house in town. And I would rather spend the labor. Like, we've been lucky enough to have this one as cost plus, so we're not really bound to a quote as such, more of an estimate guideline.
yes,
But we have done some things out here that normally you wouldn't do anywhere else. So, for instance, there was 30, off the top of my head, there was 32 extra sheets of ply put into the house because the surveyor requested that we ply all external wall frames, not just, the locations that the engineer had spec'd up. He wanted the whole lot done, which when I look back now, bit of overkill, but God, days like this, I'm looking at it thinking, shit, I'm glad I did it then. So,
Yeah,
but those ply sheets then turned into 2N12 rods or threaded rods from top plate down. Kem set it into
yeah,
the slab. So we've got
yeah,
more tie downs, we've got more anchors, all that sort of stuff. So
yeah.
it helps you sleep at night, but it still makes you sort of, when you hear the wind, you're thinking the worst. So
Mm. Yeah, I remember doing a build down at Swansea, down on the East Coast here, and it was a N3 rated wind rating.
yeah,
It wasn't particularly high, like the external walls were like 3 meter, like a 10-foot high wall, but the engineer had, called them up as like 140 mil stud.
yeah,
And at the time, I was like, "What the hell are they talking about? 140 mil stud? Why do I need to worry about going to that extreme?" And then you get a bad day down there, and you go, "Oh, yep, that probably makes sense." And while we're bracing the absolute hell out of it, and
yeah,
um, because it was an extension of a shed, it was a living space, but it was a box. So
yeah.
it had these sheer walls that was just going to cop the brunt of a decent northerly. So yeah, they sometimes you think, oh, the engineers are bonkers, but a lot of the time they get it right. So
Yeah, and I'd rather, in this instance, have an over-engineered house. Like I picked up the designer. So yeah, the designer of this one, we picked up a couple of things that we changed. So there was on the southwest corner there was no steel, and we couldn't get a solid fixing through the bottom plate because it was only a 90 mil corner where the windows sort of butted together and created
yeah,
that pocket.
yep,
And there was no physical way other than putting a plate down, 300 mil up the stud and put some coach screws into it and then dynabolt it through the slab as well. That could have been done, but it would have upset all the cladding on the outside. So we just specced up steel, and spoke to the owner and just said, look, we put it in now. It's going to give you a better bracing capacity, because it's all windows across the front. So like the designer sort of looked at it and goes, "No, you don't have to. You should be able to get this and that." And I just went, "No, I'd rather just go overboard with it." Like you're not the one that's guaranteeing this. I am.
yeah,
So I'm
exactly.
going to override it, and it allowed me to sleep a little bit better
Mm.
knowing what we'd
A-
done.
And like sometimes clients need to be aware of that too. That even though it may not be written into the specs or into the plans as such, but we are the experts of
Yeah,
masters of our trade and know what's going on. And sometimes it's just best to have that conversation to be like, I think it would be okay, but for rest assurance, if we do this now, we don't have anything to worry about in future. Yes, it
yeah.
may cost a little bit more, but at least it's done right.
It costs a little bit more, but it costs less than what it does if you have to redo it once it's all finished. So, because
Yeah,
then you got to start peeling stuff back and exposing, and you got the inconvenience of having trades back there once the family's moved in and all that sort of stuff. So, I've had constant conversations with these guys about just going that little bit extra
yeah,
on it, and if it can be done, it's going to get done. I guess it's the opposite philosophy of your volume builds.
yeah, and the communication is key, like we always say. So you've kept them in the loop the entire time about what's
Yeah,
going on. So
yeah.
yeah,
Even the cladding out here was supposed to be the standing seam, the colour,
yes, yes,
and I said to him at the time, I said, "There is no way in the world that you're gonna be able to get the flashings onto this to be that good that it's not gonna leak." The other thing is whether it's ultra or not,
mm,
in your Colorbond spec, because we're so close to the breaking surf,
yep,
this monument color is going to turn white over time, and it'll be have that really sort of tingy, weathered look to the colour bond.
Yep.
And your maintenance is phenomenal on it. Like, you're going to be out there having to wash it down all the time and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, we talked him into using a James Hardy product, the oblique cladding.
Oh, yes.
And we used the 200 board and the 300 mil wide board, and interlocked it in that pattern all the way. So it sort of does still have that shiplap look that the Dominion might have had.
Yeah.
But now we've been in more control of the cladding, so we've been able to waterproof it better. And now painting is going to be your maintenance, but you've got a cement-based product that nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to corrode and
Yeah.
rot away. So little things like that, it was probably
And
an
that would be
extra.
comparable in price too, or?
No, well, I was just going to say that
Pretty
you're probably
cheap.
looking at. So I think the cladding of the Dominion or the standing seam was, I reckon it was 45 or 48, from memory. And I reckon we've put the standing seam, the oblique cladding on for maybe all up painted. It'll be 60 grand, I reckon.
Mm.
So, little bit more expensive, but maintenance side, like that $12,000 extra, is going to serve them really well in the future.
Yep.
And yeah, they'll have a little bit of painting to do every now and then, but it's an extremely durable product that you're in control of. So
Yep.
made a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Well, we might leave it at that one then, Matty. And thanks for another awesome recording.
No worries, mate. Too easy.
We'll catch you on the next one.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to Builders Beyond Borders. If today's episode helped you feel more prepared, clearer, or more confident, share it with a mate who's planning their own build or reno. Got a question about building, renovating, or working with tradies? Send it our way. We might cover it in a future episode. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss the real stories, practical tips, and builder insights we've got coming your way. Everything shared on this podcast is based on our experiences and those of our guests. It's general info only. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.